Hey, welcome back to the We Want to Know Action Pack Show. This is our second round of interviews with the candidates as we lead towards now the general election. Again, that's on November 8th. But it is important to note that early voting is going on now. It is active and it is at the Westin. Very quick and convenient process. And I was told that you are able to also register and vote on the same visit. So if you aren't registered, there is time to make your voice be heard by way of your votes. So again, we'd like to welcome all of the listeners and viewers to another episode of the Action Pack We Want to Know Action Pack Show. I'm your host. My name is Phil Leddy. I'm the executive director for the Action Pack, and I have a great guest today who is one of the candidates that will be vying for one of your votes in the upcoming election. Today, Senator Frank Blas Jr. How are you doing, sir?
Today, Phil. Great. I'm doing really good today.
Oh, excellent. Those are always the best days. You know, I really appreciate your time to join us and to speak to me as well as our viewers. And before we jump into your welcoming remark, I always like to remind or maybe inform our new viewers of the Action Pack, who we are and what we're about. The Action Pack was formed out of a need to play an active role in government, beginning at the grassroots level. Action Pack comprises members from a cross-section of Guam society, representing all walks of life, and united in our belief that we can affect change through action. We welcome you to get to know us better, and we hope to continue to do our part of helping you, the voter, get to know the candidates better. So, Mr. Blas, if you can give us a quick opening remarks and let everyone know, who you are and what you're going to bring to the table.
No, buenas and half a day. My name is Frank Blas Jr., currently a senator with the 36th Guam legislature, asking for your vote of confidence as well to continue to serve you in the 37th Guam legislature. Other than my career, I mean, not a career, but other than my tenure in the legislature, this is my fifth term, if I remember. But it's been broken service. There are times I've taken a break. As a matter of fact, before the 36th Guam legislature, I took a 4-year hiatus from politics to concentrate and to work on the business side of my house. I come from a career, first off, in law enforcement. I started my career as a police officer of the Guam Police Department. Ended my tenure with the police department as the commander, officer in charge of the police department's drug unit. I was the task force supervisor for DEA then. I then did a little stint with the Guam Community College as an adjunct professor teaching criminal justice, as well as providing business consulting in the area of drug-free workplace programs, throughout the region. I was called back into government service, actually, by Governor Felix Camacho back in 2002 to serve as Guam's first Homeland Security Advisor. Served 4 years there, and then entered into the 29th Guam legislature, where, other than my tenure now as senator, I'm also the president of Frank Blas and Associates, which is a insurance brokerage and business consulting firm. I'm asking for your vote again for this year because we're still in the midst of an economic crisis, if you will, as a result of the pandemic that we've had to experience over the last 3 years. Our island is still struggling and still trying to recover, not just in the home front, but economically as well. And I'd like to be able to continue to work on legislation that I started in the 36 and was as a result of some of the frustrations I had, prior to coming back into government service. Our pandemic has taught us a lot with regards to the character and of our, not just our community, but the character of our government. And I was disappointed in that, and I continue to be disappointed in some of these areas in being able to provide economic assistance, if you will. And when I say economic assistance, not necessarily meaning your handout of monies, but also clearing the bureaucracy and the red tape that exists in government. Obviously, I'm a Republican. I believe that less government in your lives is the better. And I want to continue to work on that. And with your help, I'll be able to do this as a member of the 37th Guam legislature.
Excellent. Thank you for that intro. And it's important for the viewers and the voters to know and understand the plethora of experience that you bring, which is vast. I do remember my father stating him also being a retired cop, that he had the pleasure of working during the same period that you were a law enforcement officer. So I mean, I think I speak for everyone. Thank you so much for your service to our island. And then you jumped into and put on that educational hat, which is so important. And that's another thing that the island needs to do as we progress forward, is really start piquing the interest of the next generation, and not waiting for them to graduate high school. So that's excellent that you bring that. And then you're rounding it out, obviously, as a businessman, but also as a previously sitting senator. So we appreciate that, we have options for our candidates like yourself. So we're going to jump right into the interview. And our first question is, what are your 3 platform pillars?
Well, I think that my 3 platform pillars continues to be what drove me back into public service in the 36th. First off is economic development. I think that we've all agreed that as a result of the pandemic, there are things that have occurred, that, well, there could be a case and argument as to whether or not they should have occurred. But that being said, is we've had business shutdown, business slowdown, economic slowdown, things that we could have controlled and things that we couldn't control. It was external. That said, is that it gave us an opportunity, and it continues to give us opportunities to look at at economic diversification and development. We've had our eggs in certain baskets for so many years, and unfortunately, there are things that have occurred that we may not be able to recover from. But what can we grow and what can we build from those experiences? And I want to continue to work on that. The second one is crime. Unfortunately, as you read the papers daily, or you watch the news, it seems that in your top 5 news stories, 3 of them is about crime, and it affects every facet of our community. Being in prior law enforcement, being in the area of drug enforcement, I know what it takes to be able to deal with drug use and with the drug problem. And are we dealing it in the way that should be done? I don't think so. I think that again, there's too much emphasis in one area. There's not enough emphasis on being able to actually go to the root of the problem, which is why do people use drugs to begin with? Okay, I know that we can put a whole lot of effort into stemming the flow of drugs into the island, but quite honestly, if we can look at stemming or reducing the number of users and people who want to use the drugs, no matter how much drugs come on this island and nobody wants to use it, whose problem is it? It's not obviously not going to be ours. And a lot of this drug use crime issues, lead to other crimes that affect other areas of our community. We got the robberies, the burglaries, the murders, the rapes, the assaults. We got to do something with this. And I'm working on legislation right now to help to bolster the procedural side, in the judiciary side. I'm working with the judiciary of Guam right now on being able to update some of our laws that seem very much antiquated. If we had more time, I can tell you some laws that go back as far as the 1800s. That are in our books that have no relevance to Guam, but continue to be in our books. But and working with the judiciary to find language so that we can bring this, these statutes, up to date and up to par with what's happening. The third area, of course, is government efficiency. Again, I go back to, my roots in as far as being a Republican. The less government interference or involvement you have in your lives, the better. But at the same time, we've got a government that's pretty large. Okay, we've got a government that's got well over 51 agencies. And even in the 51 agencies here, there are many mandates that exist that are, may have been useful at the time they were enacted, but 20, 30, 40 years later, not necessary at all. Yet it continues to stymie what we want to be able to do, or how government should be able to assist our community. And I want to continue to be able to work on identifying, where these areas are at, so that we can create a more efficient government. Sometimes the efficiency is not so much, so that we can bring in new technology. Sometimes it's letting out the old, or the old language. And so that's what I want to be able to work on. So those three areas: economic development, crime, and government efficiency.
And I love that each area, truly what you're saying, and I firmly believe, and this is me as my personal belief, as a voter myself, that it's the days of status quo acceptance is old news. We need to find the better ways, the more efficient ways, be it the economy, by not having our whole industry reliant on one industry, our whole economy reliant on one industry. But also with the crime, and that's a stark revelation that there's so many laws that really just don't do anything for our problems or issues of today. And then moving forward to your third pillar, where government efficiency, status quo should just not be just the accepted norm. There's always a better way to do it. I was just at the Guam Contractors Association forum today. They are a pillar partner of ours. And one of the things that a lot of the guests were speaking of was the cumbersome process of the one stop after another, one stop, and we know that we have the capability to have a better process. And I think that's why it's so important to vote in the right leaders that also have that vision of a better moving process, regardless of what facet of our society it would be. So I love that.
And Phil, along those lines, just to be a little lighthearted with regards to some of the laws and some of the things that will help to create the efficiencies and to get rid of, some of those areas that we don't necessarily need. We have laws. There's a certain law in our book, that basically provides some type of regulation with regard to cashmere and Angora goat and sheep on Guam. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's in our statutes. Okay. So, when we look at those things and we say, okay, what relevance does it have, to life today here on Guam? Or more importantly, as I commonly say, what does it got to do with the price of Tang at Happy Mart? Okay. And if it doesn't affect that, and if it doesn't have any relevance to that, then why is it that it's a regulation that can stymie, whether or not there's going to be progress, within the government, the service that we expect from the government, or the government, or services that we want for the government. And those are the things that I want to work on.
Excellent. Now we're going to jump into our second question. I'm certain and confident you have many great ideas or areas that you're going to touch on. Should you be reelected into the next legislature? But what is one main focus item that you believe you can realistically accomplish in one term?
Okay, well, I can realistically accomplish in one term is set the groundwork again, to be able to create the efficiencies necessary. I want to be able to continue to transition from the work that I'm doing, in the 36 into the 37, which is one, again, going back to my continued work with the judiciary on being able to look at some of the criminal procedures and the criminal laws that exist, getting rid of some of those things, like, again, with regard to Angora and cashmere goat and sheep. Okay, that's in our statutes. Is that necessary? Clear some of those areas so there's, it's not ambiguous, or it makes no sense. Okay, to be able to have this, I believe I can work the legislation that I can work on, so that it can put that in motion. And as we move, again, another thing I wanted to talk about is in creating these efficiencies is also creating the mechanism so that we don't have to go back to the legislature all the time. Okay, to be able to fix this, give this so that first off we look at these existing statutes and existing mandates that we have in the different agencies. Is it necessary? Okay, let's get rid of it. Then give them a process to be able to constantly review these things, and if it's not necessary, the mechanism to be able to either fix it so that it is now relevant, or just get rid of it. A lot of times we have to wait a long time, for things to work out, because you have to come to the legislature. And yeah, there are things that you have to come to the legislature for, for codification. But in those cases where it's necessary, and really going through the legislative process is just another step of being able to slow process down. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so I know that can be done in the next term.
I love it. I love it. Anything that deals with efficiency, I'm a huge supporter of that. Okay, great. So we're going to round it out before we get to our initiatives. So rounding it out, I mean, it's no secret we're proud of the fact that as Action Pac, being comprised of the largest business organizations on Guam, from the chambers to the contractors, realtors, and GHRA, we are pro-business, and we are really looking closely on ways that we can, as a unit, help or continue to push for things that will or action items to help our economy move along. So our question to you, sir, is how will you help our local business community as we progress through these economic struggles?
No, one of the things that I did in this legislature, and I'm going to continue to do and find more areas and opportunities in this legislature, was in the next legislature, if elected, is being able to find funding so that we can help small businesses, startup businesses, get up on its feet. I've worked on finding funding, for the Guam Unique Merchandise and Arts program, the GUMA program. Got funding for them. I helped, as a matter of fact, a couple steps away from my desk here, in my own conference room is actually where the local or the local assistance for employers, or the LEAP program, was actually started. It started in this office, as a result of discussions that I've had with my colleagues and members of the community, looking for different ways to be able to maximize and utilize the resources that we have in existence, or what we can anticipate down the road. Over the years, I've developed relationships, throughout the region, and even in DC, so that I can continue to work with individuals to find opportunities to be able to expand our economy. Phil, it's quite astounding that Guam is actually in the midst of where 70% of the world's gross domestic product is at. Okay, we are basically 3 hours away. Okay, from where most of the industry, or most of the trade, or most of the commerce happens in the world. We are in a place where you can go off, leave Guam, go off into an Asian company, do your work, and come back home in time for dinner. Okay, we haven't taken full advantage of these things, and we want to look at from the legislative standpoint, what are some of those things that we can provide as tools so that we can make that expansion. There's a reason why Magellan came here. There's a reason why the military is here. It's called location, location, location. Let's take advantage of those things, so Guam is no longer just a small dot on a globe, okay, or just an island out in the middle of the Pacific. Guam can be the center, a hub of economic diversity and economic opportunity, for between two diverse and growing economies in the United States and in Asia. Let's take advantage of that, and I want to look at different ways to be able to do this. And I'm excited because I do have some ideas on being able to do this. It's just that this broadcast is not that long. Okay.
Yeah. We're going to continue to knock on your door when you win the seat in the next legislature, so we can know and you can inform us and our viewers. But I can guarantee this will not be the last conversation.
I'll give you a little hint. And it's interesting. Okay, in the last census, there were over 18 million small businesses in the United States. 18 small businesses that want to be able to have the opportunity to delve into and to partner and to build ways to build relationships with 70% of the world's gross domestic product. We're it. We can provide those resources. We have the expertise. We know how American business works as well as we know how Asian business works. We can bring that. We can merge that together. Okay?
I love that. That idea excites me.
Okay, so
Yeah,
there it is.
I love that, and I really love the being us rather being known to being that economic or that opportunity hub rather than being only known as the tip of a spear. So I'm all about that. So
That's right.
let's definitely explore that. Okay, in closing, we're gonna let our viewers know as well as yourself through this interview what Action Pack has 5 initiatives.
Sure.
Basically, I'm going to read off the initiative. We'll go one at a time, and you can A, say that you support it, or B, you can explain if you see a better route or a better perspective that you would suggest.
Okay.
So the first one, our number one initiative that we've been doing our part to lobby with our lawmakers, but to make it very vocal in public, to our leaders, our island leaders, is the complete rollback of the BPT, the business privilege tax, from 5% to 4% for all businesses. We fostered a great conversation, and we were very thankful that our lawmakers reduced it, the BPT, for 85 to 90% of the businesses. I think that's how they reported it. But once you hit a certain gross of 500,000 or more as a business, you're not afforded that same economic assistance. Now, it's also touted that there is 280 some odd $million of surplus, or in money in the bank, that really is to assist our island as a whole. So where do you stand on the rollback of the BPT?
No, without a doubt, I stand for a rollback. Okay, not just from 5 to 4. I can go 5 to 3.
I like 3.
Again, I'm a great proponent of the more revenue and the more money that you put into the economy, okay, the more spending power that people have. Okay, the more economic activity will occur. Okay, that money is given the opportunity to roll over so many times. Okay, when you decide to take some of that money out, so that the government, first off, government is not in the business of making money. They're in the business of spending money. Okay, they can spend the money, and a lot of times, if the taxes from the government's desire to want to spend money. I think we got to change that mindset. In the government, you spend money, you spend what money you're able to get. Okay, it's don't look to the community just because you want to be able to build, this bright shining new building, that you're going to raise the tax. There are other ways to be able to do this. Okay, and even with whether it's 5% or 3%, you can actually gain more tax revenues than you would at 5%, because you're giving businesses and the economy the opportunity to grow. So yes, I am in full support of a rollback.
We love to hear it. We love to hear it. So the number 2 initiative is, we feel really strongly to advocate for government efficiency to protect and preserve its resources. You touched a little bit on it with your pillars, but so I mean, is it safe to assume that's something that you support?
Oh yes, it's something if you go back, okay, I think that it was my legislation I was able to, when I was back, I think in the 30th or the 31st Guam legislature, that actually started to look at being able to consolidate some of the government services, back into something. Again, like I said, we've got over 51 agencies in a government that is for 160,000 people on an island 212 square miles. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot of government. Okay, and a lot of times, as far as the services, you may find redundancies in it. Okay, and so let's look at how we can become efficient. And the efficiency starts with, let's look at all these mandates that we put on these agencies, and whether or not these mandates how does it fit? If it doesn't affect the price of Tang and Happy Mart, let it go. Okay.
Excellent. Now, number 3, we feel strongly about the improvement of the transparency in all levels of the government of Guam to promote open communication and collaboration between the public and the private sectors. We have a lot of people, in the industry. We are the business industry, so we are. I would say, depending on which avenue you're looking at, we would be the experts of certain avenues, and we want to always push for transparency from our local leaders and lawmakers, but also have that seat at the table for that continued dialogue. And is that where do you stand on that?
First off, government serves the people. It's not the other way around. Okay. And in the service of the people, you got to remember, government exists based on the monies that people had earned and made. Okay. And so the people have a right to be able to see where their money is going and how their money is being spent. Okay. I do recognize that in some areas of government, such as in law enforcement, and there may be some times where the information can't be just as readily available as you'd like at that point in time. We recognize that. But I think that in a lot of cases where decisions are being made that is going to ultimately affect, how an agency operates is expected to live, there has to be that efficiency, there has to be that transparency. And I'm all for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Now we're at number 4. Number 4 is, we support the strengthening of the relations with the U.S. military to improve safety and security in our region and maximize economic opportunities for Guam. So a lot of people, they're like, oh, okay, you just support the military buildup. It's a lot bigger picture than that. And we know it is. So we want to ensure personally from Action Pac, we support that Guam and our business community, that there are those concerns in regards to safety, security, but also the maximizing of the economic opportunities for the island. Is that something that you support?
It's something I definitely support. Let me go back to my days of the being Homeland Security Advisor, and I remember that if you can probably recall a lot of times the issue that we have in as far as getting funding or getting assistance or getting our fair share of funding for certain federal programs, is that that's just Guam. Well, one of the things I tell people when I was Homeland Security Advisor is, guys got to remember, as a Homeland Security Advisor, one of the people that I have to make sure that I have to protect is that 19-year-old airman, who's from New Jersey, who's got a worried grandmother in New Jersey, okay, as to whether or not his son or his daughter is just as safe on Guam as he will be in New Jersey, okay? Along those lines, when we have that responsibility and we have that basically notoriety, for lack of a better term, of being that tip of the spear, okay, there's got to be that conversation so that we know as a community, what is expected of us and what we should expect of the military as well. So there has to be that constant communication, and I think that we can make some improvements in those areas, so that it's what is good for Guam and for the military is also good for Guam, for in our civilian side of our house.
Absolutely.
Okay? And so I'm for that.
Now, last one, and I know this is always a toss-up when I'm speaking with the candidates. So we'll touch it real quick because I do want to give you a chance for your closing remarks. Where do you stand on the part-time legislature issue?
Well, I tell you, that's actually a conversation that is more so that we need to have as to whether or not it's not that easy to say yes or no to a part-time legislature. You got to remember some of the things that we are expected to do, as a legislature, and some of the things the community expects us to perform and to do. Okay, right now, a lot of the sentiment is because there's some dissatisfaction, and there's a disconnect between our Guam's political leaders and its community. Okay. And so, in doing this, there may be some misunderstanding or not a clear understanding of what the roles are. Okay. Am I against a part-time legislature? No, I'm not. Okay. But at the same time, it's okay. What kind of legislature does the community, or what kind of voice does the community want, recognizing that the legislature is an integral part of a democracy that has 3 branches of government. Okay. And each branch should be at their disposal at any time of the day, okay, and any day of the week. So when you do want to do the part-time, what are you doing to your voice? Okay, so I think that's a conversation that we need to continue to have. And if at the end of the day, this is what the community wants, then that's what I'll work with.
I definitely appreciate that perspective. Well, Mr. Blas, I really appreciate your candor. I appreciate you accepting this invitation. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I really do hope that our viewers take a chance to watch it and even rewatch it to really hear where you stand on certain topics and see how that aligns with their personal preference, or how they see the island moving forward. And then should they decide that that you are one of the ones that are deserving of their vote, that they cast that vote either now during the early election or on November 8th. So before we sign off, I want to give you some time to say closing remarks to our viewers.
Well, first off, Phil, and to Action Pack, thank you very much for this opportunity, for this conversation. I mean, quite honestly, it's recording everything, but I felt very comfortable because it was more of a forum and a more informative, back and forth type thing. Again, thank you. My name is Frank Blas Jr. I am asking for your consideration, your vote, to continue to represent you in the 37th Guam legislature. Again, I was out of politics, for about 4 years before, again, my frustration and my concern of where our island's economy and where we were going as an island, was being tested, during the pandemic. And one of the things I found as coming back in is there continues to be a disconnect between our community and the leaders that should serve our community. Okay, and that's very disconcerting. And I'd like to be able to help them bridge that gap and to mend that, so that the legislature is truly going to be, the voice of the people, and being able to watch out for the concerns of the people. There are many things that are continue to occur that continue to plague our island, if you will. Okay, we got a rise, the rise in crime, the rise in our utilities, in our cost of living. We've got a dilapidating healthcare system. We've got some concerns with regards to education. As a legislator, I'd like to be able to help to bring and to set policy and set direction, so that we can help to improve in those areas. Because as we turn the corner, as we get out of this pandemic, and we go back to normal life, it's now that it's a chance to be able to define what is that life, what is that normal life that we want to set for ourselves. We have the opportunity to be able to diversify our economy, grow our economy based on different things and based on different challenges. Okay, as your Homeland Security advisor before, one of the things I learned after a disaster, you find ways to be able not just to recover, but to mitigate, so that in case it comes again, where we don't get as devastated as we were the first time around. And I want to work on those programs in all facets of our community and our lives on Guam, to be able to ensure that we can continue to be resilient, but more so that we can overcome any disasters that come our way. Again, I'm a Republican. I want to be able to continue to represent your conservative thoughts and your values. I'm sure that many of us have those things. And as far as the concerns, I also believe in less government in your life. But also making sure that your lives are protected and your freedoms are protected, and that you're safe, and that you can continue to be able to live a life that you want to be able to live within the bounds of the law. And as your candidate, as your representative in the next Guam legislature, I'll be able to do this. So again, once again, I'm Frank Blas Jr. I'm number 1 on the Republican side of the ballot. Very easy to remember. Just got started at the top, and there I am. But I'd be honored, I'd be humbled if I got your vote, and I continue to serve you in the 37th Guam legislature. So thank you very much.
Awesome. You guys heard it first. This is the We Want to Know Action Pack Show. And now we know what Mr. Frank Blas Jr. Is presenting to as a way of service to our island. He felt the prompt to get back into public service and to make things better. And this is what he has to offer. So again, rewatch it, share it, and should you see fit that he moves forward to our 37th legislature, cast that vote now at early voting or cast it on November 8th. Thank you again, sir. Humbled by your presence and this conversation we've shared. And thank you for watching the We Want to Know Action Pack Show. Adios.
Thank you very much, Phil. All right. Adios.